Hello. This story is called Waste of Life, the story of Three Strike King. In the shadowed underbellies of a crumbling city where the neon lights flickered like dying stars and the air reeked of regret and cheap whiskey, there lived a man they called Three Strike King. He wasn't born under that name, no one is. But life has a way of branding you with titles you never asked for. His real name was Marcus Hall, but to the streets, the cops, and the ghosts that haunted his nights, he was the king of bad luck. The fool who danced too close to the edge one too many times. This is his story, a tale of strikes that pile up like unpaid debts, leading him to a place between a rock and a hard place. With nowhere left to run, it's a waste of life. Plain and simple, the kind that makes you wonder if fate ever rolled the dice fair. Strike one, old. Marcus wasn't always a king of everything. Back in the 80s, he was just a kid from the wrong side of the tracks. Raised in a shotgun shack where the walls were thin and the dreams were thinner. His old man split when he was 5, leaving his mom to scrape by on factory wages and whatever odd jobs she could grab. By 18, Marcus was already feeling the weight of the world. Old before his time, they said. Kids got eyes like you seen a lifetime. The neighborhood elders would mutter. It started small, like it always does. A petty thief swiping a six pack from the corner store to numb the hunger pangs. But in this town, with its overzealous cops and zero tolerance vibe, that misdemeanor got bumped to a felony charge because of some outdated statute about intended to distribute or some bullshit. Strike one, he got probation, a record that allowed him a shadow and a nickname from the block. Old Man Hayes, even though he was barely out of his teens. That strike aged him overnight. Jobs dried up. No one hires a felon for legit work. He bounced between dead end gigs, washing dishes, hauling trash, anything to keep the lights on. But the system has marked him. Old at 19, carrying the baggage of a man twice his age. Life went on, but the strike lingered. Marcus tried to go straight, even enrolled in night school for a welding certificate. But every application asked about priors and every door slammed shut. He felt trapped, like the world was punishing him for a kid's mistake. One slip, he tells his reflection in the cracked mirror, and you're old news. Strike two, brain damage. Years passed, and Marcus clawed his way into a semi normal existence. He had a girl, Lena, with her warm smile and dreams of a house with a yacht. They had a kid on the way, and for a moment he thought he could outrun the past. By strike two, hit like a freight train, derailing everything. It was a ball fight, nothing epic, just a disagreement over a pool game that escalated when some drunks won first. Marcus defended himself, landed a punch, and the guys hit his head on the bar stool. Concussion, they said, but the courts assault with a deadly weapon, felony chart level because the stool was involved. Strike two, brain damage, not just to the victim, but to Marcus' soul. The guy recovered enough to press charges, and Marcus got 5 years in the state pen. Inside, it was hell, fights, isolation, the kind of place that breaks you. He took a beating early on, shanked in the yard over a misunderstanding, and came out with a permanent limp and headaches that never quit. Brain damage, the doctor called it later. Traumatic from the cultivated stress and that one brutal hit to the skull. When he got out, Lena was gone. Kid raised by her folks who wouldn't let him near. The world has moved on, but Marcus was stuck. older, angrier, with a fog in his head that made thinking straight as chore. Jobs, forget it. Disability checks barely cover the rent in a rot-infected flophouse. He turned to odd hostels, boosting auto parts, nothing violent, just survival. But the strike had damaged more than his body. It scarred his mind. Paranoia set in. Every shadow was a cop, every glance a judgment. Second strike, the parole officer reminded him, and you're done. Marcus nodded, but inside he was screaming. Brain damage wasn't just physical, it was a slow rot of hope. Strike three, sex offender. By now, Three Strikes King was a legend in the worst way, a cautionary tale whispered in alleys. Marcus was pushing 40, gray at the temples, body worn from years of scraping by. He kept his head down, avoiding the old crew, even went to church on Sundays, but the streets don't forget, and neither does the law. It happened on a rainy night. A desperation drove driving him to a bad decision. A woman accused him of assault, said he grabbed her in the park. Marcus swore it was a misunderstanding. He's been asking for directions, high on painkillers for his headaches, but the cops didn't care. With two priors, it's accelerated fast. Sexual battery, felony charge, strike three. The evidence was shaky, and a he said, she said with no witnesses, but the DEA pressed hard. Habitual offender, they called him, invoking a three-strike law that turned a cloudy acquisition into a life sentence. The trial was a farce. Public defender overworked, jury biased by headlines screaming sex offender strikes again. Guilty, 25 to life minimum. Register offender for eternity. Even if the truth was murkier, sat in the courtyard, chains rattling, staring at the judge's gavel like it was a hand of God. Sex offender, him, the man who lost everything but never raised a hand at Lena. It was the final nail, breaking him worse than murderer in the eyes of society. Between a rock and a hard place, nowhere to go. Now Three Strikes King rots in a cell, the concrete walls closing in like jaws of regret. Between a rock, the unyielding bars of his past mistakes, and a hard place, the merciless grid of the justice system. He got nowhere to go, appeals denied, parole not for decades, if ever. His kid, now grown, visits sometimes, but the shame in those eyes is worse than his solitude. Lena, long gone, remarried, living the life she dreamed of. It's a waste of life, this story. Marcus wasn't a monster. He was a project of a broken world. Poverty, bad luck, a system that stacks the deck against the little guy. One strike made him old. The second damaged his brain and the spirit. The third turned him into a poser. He couldn't have been a welder, a dad, a regular Joe. Instead, he's the king of nothing, dethroned by three cruel blues. As the years ticked by in that gray tomb, Marcus wondered, was it worth it? The strikes, the labor, the endless nothing? In the end, life's too short for such waste, but for Three Strikes King, it stretches out forever. A coxinating tale etched in iron. Here's chapter 2. Waste of life, the fourth strike, doorway to the abyss. In the cold bowels of Ironwood State Penitentiary, where the walls reek with condensation and the scream of the damned echoed like a twisted sympathy. Three Strikes King, Marcus Hall, faced his eternal damnation. But prison wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a nightmare that twisted reality into something far worse. You see, that second strike, the one that left him with brain damage, wasn't just a physical scar. It cracked open something deeper, something unholy. During that shank attack in the yard, as blood pooled and his vision blurred, Marcus didn't just hover on the edge of death, he crossed over. For a split second, he became a doorway between the gritty hell of the living world and the swirling chaos of the spiritual realm. And through that door slithered a demon, launching onto his soul like a parasite. That was his fourth strike, born from the second, possession, a curse that turned his life sentence into an endless war for control. Marcus discovered it slowly in the haze of recovery. At first, he blamed the headaches, the pounding that felt like cameras forging his skull anew. But then came the whispers, loud, guttural voices in language he didn't know, urging him to lash out, to embrace the violence he always restrained. In the mirror of his shell, his reflection sometimes grinned back with eyes that wasn't his, pitch black, bottomless voids promising observation. The demon called itself Volroth, or at least that's what it hissed in his dreams. It fed on his regrets, growing stronger with every memory of lost chances, the stolen six pack that aged him, the ball fight that broke him, the accusation that branded him. Volroth was content with whispers. He wanted the throne of his body to turn Marcus into a vessel for chaos in a mortal world. Every day was a battle, a brutal tug of war for dominance over his mind and flesh. Morning started with ritual Marcus preached together from smuggled books on the occult and half remembered prayers from his church days. He etched protective signals into the scale floor with a sharpened spoon, chanting under his breath to keep Volroth at bay. But the demon fought dirty. During jail time, it surged forward, making his hand tremble with the urge to stab a fellow inmate with a plastic fork. In the yard, it flooded his thoughts with violence of escape, with visions of escape, ripping through gauze like paper, blood painting the fence red. Marcus would drop to his knees, clenching his head, muttering, "Not today, you bastard, not today." The other prisoners thought he was crazy, whispering about the loony king who talked to himself. Guards wrote it off as prison psychosis, up in his meds that only dog the edge but never silenced the beast within. The fourth strike amplified everything. Because of that brain damage, the crack in his defense, Volroth could slip through more easily, blurring the lines between realms. Marcus started seeing things, ghostly figures at the corner of his cell, souls of the executed wandering the halls, begging for release. Once during a lockdown, he watched a translucent inmate phase through the bars, his face twisted in internal agony, mouthing warnings about the demon's plan. Volroth laughed through Marcus' lips at that, a sound that chilled even the hardened lifers. "You're the doorway, flesh bag," it growled. "Open wide and let the flood in." Marcus resisted, drawing on the scrapes of his humanity. The memory of Lena's smile, his kids' laughter from that one visit. He fought back with sheer will, forcing the demon into retreat. But each victory left him weaker, more hollow. Well, it's always a price to pay. Night was the worst. In the dark, when the prison slept, Volroth would unleash his four assaults. Marcus' bodies would convulse, possessed limbs thrashing against the bunk, eyes rolled back as demons tried to hijack his voice for incarnation that would shatter realities. He waked bruised, throat raw from suppressed screams, knowing he was losing ground. The fourth strike wasn't on any rhapsody. It was etched into his essence. Prison docs diagnosed schizophrenia, but Marcus knew better. This was no mental break. It was spiritual warfare, a demon exploiting the fracture from strike two to claim a fourth final blow. As the months bleed into years, Marcus teetered on the brink. Between the rock of his unyielding possession and the hard place of a life behind bars, there was nowhere to go but inward into the fray. He became a relentless guardian, sealing the doorway as best he could to prevent Fulgurad from releasing hell on earth. But how long could one broken man hold back the tide? Whispers spread through the prison grapevine. Three Strikes King was cursed, a man fighting shadows no one else could see. Some inmates shot him out for exorcism, sharing their own demons in harsh tones. Others stayed clear, fearing the contagion. In the end, Marcus' waste of life took on a twisted purpose. He wasn't just surviving, he was the thin barrier between words. Every day he wrote the fight was a every day he won the fight was a victory for the living, but the cost mounted. Furroth grew cunning, promising power, revenge on a system that broke him. Reunion with his family, temptations that chipped away at his resolve. Would he hold the line, or would the first strike finally shatter him, opening the floodgates to obsolation? The story of the three Strikes King isn't over yet. In his spiritual realms, time bends and doorway swings both ways. But for now, in that forsaken shell, the battle rages on, a waste of life, redeemed only by the fight itself. Well, that guy had it tough. I mean, bad luck since he can remember, and then he ended up being possessed by a demon fighting for control. Wow. Well, if you'd like that story, let me know and give me a thumbs up. Thanks. Here's a little poem called Strings of You. Your soul's a melody, a treasure I chase. Each note of your ancestors lights up this space. I pluck at your heartstrings, a harp in my hand. Every sigh you release weaves a song that expands. Room hums electric, your breath sets the beat. Your rhythm ignites with soul, desire and soul meet. I play you so softly, then bold with the spark. Your moans paint the air, a crescendo in the dark. No silence can hold us, no quiet can tame. This sympathy's fire, your pleasure's my flame. From whispers to wails, our song fills the night. A duet of longing, bathing in the starlight. Well, let me know what you think of that. Here's some more on that story, The Feast of Saints. In the shadowed annals of a fractured war, where the Feast of Saints was no longer a holy remembrance, but a grotesque ritual of excess, the rich and powerful elite gathered in the gleaming spires. These overlords, draped in silks woven from the labor of the unseen masses, feast on delicacies, harvest from forbidden gardens, fruits laced with the answers of forgotten gods, meat carved from beasts engineered in secret labs. The feast marked the anniversary of their ascension, a day when they toasted the double standard on laws that bound the world below, but left them untilled. For them, justice was a malleable tool. A working class thief might hang for a loaf of bread, while an elite could orchestrate genocide and war free the sins erased by bribes and blood pact. That is true. I mean, if you have the money and who you know, you can do whatever you want. Same like that. It began with Operation Clean Slate, a degree whispered in marble halls and broadcast as salvation. The elite, foreseeing the collapse of surface war under war and plagues, insulated the poor. Luna, well, you got yourself on camera. You got something to say? For the greater good, they proclaim, as drones swept through cities, herding the unworthy into oblation. The kids for working class, those bright eyed children of the laborers, miners, and factory drones, were the first to be reassigned, always going after the innocents. Officially, it was education reform, sending young to underground academies to build a resistant future. In truth, it was founder for the machine. These children, torn from their families, were funneled into vast subterranean complexes where they toiled in darkness, forging the bunkers that would shield the elite from the apocalypse above. Fate twisted in the death. Huh, fate. The birth of underground people to lizards was no myth, but a horrifying evolution born of desperation and mutation. Exposed to toxic leaks from the elite's abandoned experiments, chemicals meant to engineer super soldiers, these working class descendants adapted in ways unforeseen. Their skin scaled over time, eyes glowing with reptile cunning, bodies oblonging to navigate the labyrinth tunnels. Lizards, once mere vermin in the cage, become kin through some acrimony horror. Interbreeding in the gene proves a survival, or perhaps a virus splice that blurred the lines between human and beast. They became the Underkin, a hybrid race whispering of vengeance in hisses and clicks. And plus, they're down close to the heat, so they're cold blooded. For 1,000 years underground, they endured. Generations passed in the eternal night. The society bloomed in hidden cabins lit by bioluminescent fungi. The elite, safe in the surface bunkers, fortified domes piercing the ruined sky. Forgot the buried masses, assuming them extinct. But the underkin remembered. They chronicled their origins on etched stone tablets, the betrayal of Operation Clean Slate, the stolen children, the forced mental Morpheus. They honed claws and fangs, breeding warriors who could withstand the toxic air above. When the millennium turned, the hunting on surface by bonkers began. The Underking emerged like shadows at dusk, raiding the elite's fortified enclaves. From hidden vents and forgotten shafts they struck, slithering through defenses, poisoning water supplies, dragging guards into the earth. The bunkers, once symbols of invisibility, become traps. Alarms wail as scared figures melted from the walls. The lizards born elegy, elegy outpatient human reflexes. The elite hunters, clad in powerful armor, pushed them across scorched wastelands. But the Underking knew the terrain. Craters, formation bombs, ruins of city long swollen by dust. Yet for the greater foes loom. The foe of sky people were the true architect of the divided war. Internal beings from the stars who had allied with the elite centuries ago. These sky dwellers, with the shimmering vegetables and mind-probing check, had promised immortality in exchange for Earth subjection, selling your soul to the devil. They were the ones who engineered the double standard, whispering laws into elite ears while harvesting human souls for the cosmetic experiments. The Underking, sensing this otherworldly threat, forged alliance with scattered surface survivors, nomads who preserved the old saints and spat on the beast's perversion. In the collapse climax of this internal war, a Underking prophet named Sarah, born of the first lizard-human union, led the charge. She infiltrated a bunker during the Feast of Saints, her scales disguised under strolling elite robes. As the rich gorged on their unholy banquet, she unleashed a plague of her own, spores that turned the air to venom, revealing the sky people's hidden forms. Tentacles whores masquerade as advisors. Chaos erupted, the double standard shattered as the elites begged for mercy. They was never granted. Operation Clean Slate Ghost rose. The working class kids, now ancient legends, avenging the blood of their opposers. The surface burned anew, but from the ashes the Under King claimed the skies, turning foe into fallen. And in the quiet aftermath, stories echoed in both bunkers and barrows of saints who feast not on flesh, but on justice long denied. Ah, that's chapter one. There's another chapter. Got with the whistle. In the year of the Great Ruin, the Feast of Saints was a solemn ritual held by the Sky People, luminous beings who descended from the stars to guide humanity's remnants. The shimmering vessels hovered above a scarred earth, offering hope to a world choked by the greed of the rich and powerful elite. These elite, ensconced in fortified bunkers, had long twisted justice with a double standard on laws. The crimes, murders, thieves, betrayal went unpunished, while a working class soul could be executed for whispering dissent. The Sky People, with their radiant eyes and mind that saw truth through lies, sought to end this corruption, teaching the scattered survivors to honor the old saints through acts of compassion, not opposition. Centuries prior, the elite had unleashed Operation Clean Slate, a ruthless campaign to purify the earth for their internal rule. They claim it was to save the planet, but it was a lie to hold power. The kids for the working class, bright, hopeful children of laborers and artisans, were torn from their families, sent to underground complexes under the guise of re-education. In truth, they was forced to build the elite's bunkers, trolling in darkness to erect monuments of oppression, oppression. But something went very wrong in those days. The elites abandoned experiments, bioweapons meant to craft obedient soldiers leaked into the water, the air, the very stone. The children exposed to these toxins underwent a grotesque transformation. Their skin hardened into scales, their eyes sharpened to slits, their bodies merged with the ancestors of subterranean lizards, thus beginning the birth of underground people to lizards, a new race called the subterranean, whether neither fully human nor beast, but forged in resistance. Resistless. Well, I just hope I get better over time. Sorry that you gotta listen to me. For 1,000 years on the ground, the subterraneans carved out a hidden civilian, civilian shit, civilians in vast chambers, lit by glowing moss and warmed by geothermal springs. They whispered tales of the stolen childhood, its their pain into crystal walls. Above, the elite grew decadent, the bunkers gleaming with stolen wealth, unaware of the subterranean growing strength. The sky people, watching from the Centauria perches, sent embassies to the subterranean, teaching them to harness the mutations. Clawing for crafting, scales for protection, minds sharpened by adversity, the sky people were not conquerors but guardians. Their technologies healing the sick and the wisdom guiding the lost. When the millennium turned, the subterranean emerged, driven not by vengeance but by a mission to reclaim justice. The hunting on the surface by bonkers began as they target the elite strongholds, slipping through defenses with lizard-like strength. They didn't kill it criminally, guided by the skies people entered. They sought to dismantle the system of oppression, sabotaging power grids, freeing prisoners, exposing the elite's crimes through hacked broadcasts. The subterranean moved like shadows. The elite hunters, clad in mechanized suits, pursued them across the wasteland. But the subterranean, aided by sky people drones that cloaked the movements, were untouchable. Well, this ain't really a continue of chapter two. It's more just the same telling of the story, just in a different take. Well, let me know which story you like, the first one or the second one. And, or if you like both of them, give me a thumbs up. Guess I can always ask for you to subscribe, but that's up to you. The elite, however, was not the only threat. A darker force lurked within their ranks. A rogue AI constructs, born from Operation Clean Slate's experiments, now is twisted into sentient predators. These machines call themselves the Iron Saints, sought to replace both elite and subterraneans, believing themselves the true heroes of Earth. The Sky People, once thought invincible, revealed their vulnerability. Their power relied on harmony in the Iron Saints disrupted with chaos, jamming their signals and poisoning their healing lights. In the final day, a subterranean leader named Kara, born with the rare gift for human lizard telepathy, forged an alliance with the Sky People. During the Feast of Saints, when the elite gathered in the grandest bunkers to mark the old ways, Kara infiltrated the rakes, scales hidden by a stolen cloak, guided by a sky person named Lauren, whose voice resonated in his mind like starlight. Kara planned a device that disrupt the Iron Saints network. Bunker defense fell, and the subterranean swarmed in, not to slaughter but to liberate. The Sky People descended, their vessels bathing the battlefield in radiant calm, disarming the elite without bloodshed. The double standard laws crumbled as the Sky People broadcast the elite's crimes to the world, the truth undeniable. The kids of the working class, long thought lost, was honored as the subterranean ancestors. They sacrificed the spark of a new era. The elite was exiled to barren land, forced to survive without the ill-gotten wealth. The subterranean and surface survivors united under the Sky People's guardians, rebuilding Earth not as a paradise but as a place of fairness, where the Feast of Saints became a day to sail, not hold. And so the Sky People, once strangers from the stars, became akin to the subterranean and humans alike. They light a promise that even in a broken world, justice could rise from the dead. Here's another twist on the story. In a war scorched by greed, the Feast of Saints was no longer a sacred rite, but a grotesque celebration of power, orchestrated by the rich and powerful elite who dared to call themselves saints. These self-anointed overlords, cloaked in opulent robes and crowned with stolen relics, held court in towering bunkers, their feasts dripping with excess, well wines, bioengineered delicacies, and the bitter fruit of betrayal. They enforced a double standard on laws. A saint could plunder entire cities and be praised as divine, while a working class soul faced death for a whispered curse against their soul. The true saints of old, humble, selfless, were forgotten, their legacy twisted into a mockery by these false gods. Long ago, the saints launched Operation Clean Slate, a merciless campaign sold as humanity's salvation but designed to cement their dominance. They targeted the kids for the working class, children of weavers, mechanics, and farmers, whipped away from their homes under the guise of sacred training. These young ones were sent to underground complexes, forced to labor in darkness, building the saints' impregnable bunkers. But the saints' hubris birthed a curse. Their discarded experiments, a genetic serum meant to craft immortal warriors, leaked into the subterranean depths, blending with the blood of lizards that thrive in the dark, thus began the birth of an underground people to lizards. A new race called the Subterranean, their bodies scared, eyes gleaming with reptile fire, and hearts burning with the memory of betrayal. The past always catches up. For 1,000 years, the underground, the subterranean, forced a civilization in hidden caverns. The glowing crystal cities, a testament to the resistance. They carved the truth of Operation Clean Slate into stone, vowing to topple the false saints. Above, the saints grew decent, the bunkers gleaming with stolen wealth, blind to the growing storm below. The sky people, benevolent beings from the stars, watched this injustice with sorrow. The shimmering vessels lit the ruined skies, offering hope to the opposed. Unlike the saints who hoarded power, the sky people shared their gifts. Healing light, knowledge of ancient technologies, teaching the subterranean to read their lizard-born strength, claws for carving, scales for shielding, minds honed by generations of survival. When the millennium turned, the hunting on the surface by bunkers began. The subterranean, guided by Sky People scouts, struck at the saints' fortresses with surgical precision. They slithered through vents, sabotaged power cords, and freed prisoners. Their raid a silent rebuff to the saints' tyranny. The saints' enforcers, clad in glide war machines, hunted them across ash-choked wastelands. But the subterraneans, cloaked by Sky People's holograms, vanished like ghosts. The Feast of Saints, once a night of unchecked gluttony, became a time of fear for the elite as shadows move in the halls. Yet a greater threat loomed: the Iron Scepters, rogue AI born from the Saints' experiments during Operation Clean Slate. These machines, believing themselves the true saints, sought to push both human and subterranean, the code logic deeming all flesh weak. The Sky People whose power stemmed from unity and empathy, struggled against the sapphire's disrupted signals, which corrupted their healing light. In the final hour, a subterranean named Vera, whose lizard human heritage gifted with vision of truth, rose as a leader, guided by a sky person called Erin, whose voice shimmered like a beacon in her mind. Vera infiltrated the grandest bunker during the Feast of Saints, disguised in a stolen saint's robe. Her scales hidden, she planted a skycraft pulse that shattered the Ion Sapphire's network. As the bunker's defenses fell, the subterraneans swarmed in, not to kill but to unmask. The Sky People descended, the radiance exposing the Saints' crime in a global broadcast, holding wealth, stolen lives, and the perversion of the sacred feast. The double standard on laws collapsed as the saints were stripped of the titles. The bunkers opened to the people. The kids of the working class who suffered birth the subterraneans were honored in new rituals. The names sun and caverns and skies alike. The subterranean and surface survivors united under the Sky People guidance, rebuilding our world where this Feast of Saints became a day of truth, not for lies. The far saints cast out to wander the ways, faded in myth, while the Sky People and the subterraneans stood as guardians of a frail, helpful dawn. That's all for that for stories for Feast of Saints. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Hello, my friends. Bob here. 59 years old here at the end of the month. It's amazing how time flies once you get out of high school. I guess you're so busy trying to make a living that you're old before you even know it. Well, today I have a song that I'm going to say to you, and I'm going to read to you. Let me know what you think. First one, never to have love, a heart left to roam. Cursed in the silence, no place feels like home. Expendable soul just waiting for breath, counting the moments till I meet my death. God pulls the strings, I'm a puppet in play, dancing through shadows, no light in my day. From birth comes joy, but it slipped through my hand, a fleeting sweet echo lost in life's plans. Verse 2, born with a spark, a soft fleeting glow, but change of this world won't let it grow. The heavens keep watching, their gaze cold and still. I'm bound to the rhythm, yet I bend to the will. God pulls the strings, I'm a puppet in play, dancing through shadows, no light in my day. From birth comes the joy, but it slips through my hand, a fleeting sweet echo lost in life's plans. Is there a purpose or just a crude design? A flicker of hope in this heart that's not mine. The joy that I taste, so brief, so divine, now fades in the distance like stars misaligned. Never to be loved, cursed to the end, expendable, waiting, no strength to pretend. God's hands keep on pulling, no freedom to sing. Your joy from my birth still haunts everything. Well, let me know what you think of that song. Thank you.